Today we're going to learn about appropriation and how to create a contemporary poster in the Russian constructivist style by applying a historical design context. For this example, we're going to use cultural appropriation. What is appropriation and how is it used? Let's start by looking at the famous example of a cultural appropriation. I have chosen Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, completed in 1517. This painting is so historical and recognizable to just about everyone, and is still one of the most important pieces of art made by Leonardo da Vinci. I am referring to the original artwork placed here on the screen on the left and the appropriated version on the right. The appropriated version is an example of how times have changed. We can recognize the COVID mask on her face as a focal point in this image. The artist has changed the context from the original design by simply adding the mask, symbolizing COVID-19. Appropriation art is any work of art that borrows artistic elements from other works of art, popular culture, or everyday objects by repurposing them into a new context. The transformation of pre-existing images or objects in the borrowed work within the new design can be very useful in creating new contexts for these ideas, in turn helping to change the way the subject is perceived or understood, with the hope that the viewer will bring all the original associations with the image to the artist's new context. On the right side, you will see the original chosen graphic poster created by Vladimir Stenberg and Georgy Stenberg for the film titled In Spring, dated 1929. The poster appropriated the spirit of experimental film techniques, including cutting-edge editing and framing. These posters allow us to understand the unprecedented period of creativity in the history of humankind that enabled the progressive visions of graphic designers, bringing their work to life at a connotative level. How to use appropriation to create a contemporary design piece. First, start by finding an image you would like to use. Manipulate the image by cropping it, adding the text, changing what the text says, or changing the image's subjects. You can also change the color and the fundamentals of art and design. In this example I have created on the left, I have chosen to preserve the illusion of depth from the original design by employing overlapping elements, scale, and proportion. By switching out the subjects, I have changed the cultural context of the poster. By preserving the design fundamentals of the original design, it's likely to be recognized as appropriation of early Soviet constructivist designs. Today's tutorial focuses on design theory and the application of design fundamentals. Intermediate level knowledge of Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop tools is recommended. I am going to create a trendy tourist poster designed to promote travel to a popular tourist destination, Vail, Colorado. You can use these steps to create your very own version of appropriation. To get started, place your chosen image that you want to appropriate in the background on a locked layer. Make a decision on what design fundamentals you would like to preserve and what fundamentals you'd like to replace. This will change the meaning of the context. These decisions can make or break your design. If you stray too far away from the original design, the context of the original association could be lost by the viewer. This will also depend on the popularity of the chosen design and whether or not the viewer has come into contact with the design before and has formed an opinion of the design. The first section of this tutorial utilizes the Shape tool, which can be found on the left side of the screen in Adobe Illustrator in the toolbox. As seen here on my screen, I have one large shape that is a combination of multiple shapes. Once you have drawn your shapes and aligned the shapes, use the selection tool in the toolbox to select all the shapes you want to combine. You will need to have the Pathfinder panel open, and you will click on Unite to merge all the shapes into one solid object. I have also applied a gradient to the shape by using the eyedropper tool and selecting the colors from the original design. Now I am going to change the text from the original design to start adding my own context to the new design. By applying scale to the text, I am creating visual hierarchy. All other text will be smaller in proportion. The city name is the most important since the city of Vale is world renowned for skiing. Arguably the finest resort destination in the world, I have also chosen the skier as part of the photo montage due to his professional skiing abilities. Vale can be very dangerous if you're a beginner. That is why I have chosen the toilet plungers to replace the ski poles. It doesn't matter where you want to go, the mountain will decide for you, especially if you are new to skiing. Also, Vale has extremely hidden cliffs that you can accidentally slide off, causing injury. It is advised to hire a guide to avoid these pitfalls, especially if you're new to the location. By adding the plungers, I am making reference to Marcel Duchamp's Art for Art's Sake, expressing the idea that art has an inherent value independent of its subject matter. By swapping out the female figure in the original with the vintage skier changes the context while still preserving the motion from the original design. The motion and illusion of depth is one of the most important aspects I have chosen to preserve from the original design fundamentals. For the next step, I am going to subtract my text from the compound shape that I created that you see here in the background, the one that has the gradient applied to it. I'm going to take the text away from the solid object. The best way to do this is by using the Pathfinder tool. Except this time when we use the Pathfinder tool in shape modes, which are all the little options that you see here on the panel, you're going to want to choose minus front. This will subtract the shapes of the letters from the solid background. That way, if we want to put texture behind our text or change the color, we can easily do that. For the next step, I'm going to bring in my photo montage of the skier from Photoshop into Illustrator by dragging and dropping. I'm just going to take a little step back in history to show you what I did to the image to create this effect before I brought it into Illustrator. First, I found royalty-free photographs that I wanted to take the images from. I found one that had a plunger in it and one that had a skier in it, and I selected the subject and I took the subject out of the photograph. Now I'm going to show you in Photoshop how you can select that subject and modify the colors within that selection. For this next part, you're going to go up to the options bar at the top of the screen. Once you've selected your magic wand from the toolbox on the left side, you're going to want to go up to select subject in the options bar. Now that's going to select this ski guy. If I haven't selected all the pixels that I want to select, I can add pixels to the selection. For the next part, I'm going to show you how I created the ski gondolas by using image trace in Adobe Illustrator. First, you want to find an image that you can trace, and you're going to place that on your background layer. Then you're going to go up to Window, go down to Image Trace, and you're going to work with the different settings within Image Trace until you find something that is pleasing. I'm going to use my gradient tool to change the color profile to give dimension to the gondolas, and I'm also going to use a clipping mask to clip to a texture on another layer just to create that subtle dimension I'm looking for. I'm going to use my direct selection tool in my toolbox at the very top, and I'm going to expand my image trace of these gondolas. I want to modify the windows only. So with that tool, I can hold my shift key down and select specific objects, and then in my layers panel, using transparencies, I can change the opacity or the transparency of the windows. I want to give the sense that these windows are frosty and cold. Now I'm going to experiment with the composition and placement of objects within my composition until I have created that positive and negative space using Gestalt theory. I'm also going to play with a direction, movement, proportion, scale, and size, and repetition within my composition. Now's the time to start finalizing my design, putting all the finishing touches on the design to make it all come together. So I still need a background image, and for this I'm going to look for some Ben-Day dots, or I can also create my own Ben-Day dots from a gradient swatch. I can put those in the background, and I can create copies of them and rotate them in different directions and change the scale to give it that effect of real snow. I'm also going to add some secondary text, and I'm going to play with the positioning of the subject and the other graphic elements within the piece. Once I'm happy with everything, I'm going to go through, comb through my layers, make sure they're properly labeled, properly grouped. In the event that I do want to print this poster and I'm sending it to a printer, I definitely want to go through the proofing steps in the file. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Click the subscribe button so you can receive notifications on all of our educational videos like this. And you can learn more about how to utilize Adobe Creative Suite, specifically Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop, to create your very own works of art. Thank you for watching.